So I just opened this YouTube channel and it occurred to me that I should probably beef up my video output for at least the first year so the algorithm doesn't eat me in my intended one video a month schedule alive. Of course, the main reason I have things set up the way I do is for the sake of my own sanity. I still have my real life, and the thing that takes a while with videos is script writing. I'm the kind of person who goes through like a billion drafts. So one of the cheap ways I'm going to inflate my video output is to have smaller videos every so often, and for this occasion I dug up one of my previous drafts from my first video. The original handful of drafts of how to make an adaptation Mega Man 1994 included a recommended list of episodes to encourage people to check out the original show. I ended up cutting it because I felt like it distracted from my main point of Mega Man being a good adaptation, and that wasn't ideal. So I'm giving you that list as a separate video instead, a solid 2,000 words I cut out of the last video so that I don't suffer death by obscurity too quickly. And if you haven't watched that first video, I suggest you check that out first. With that, let's get started. Here are my recommended episodes of Mega Man 1994 for you to watch. Season 1, Episode 10, Ice Age, is about Dr. Wily stealing the research of a scientist named Mr. Zero to create a super freeze ray to take over the world. This episode is a standout because of the episodic robot masters involved, in a rare occasion where they not only have unique characterization, but also an interpersonal relationship. More specifically, a rivalry. Iceman is one of the original 6 robot masters, and we've seen him in the first episode prior to this. However, this episode is his first speaking role, and he's competent, threatening, and easily jealous. Iceman, threatening? His character design is actually pretty clever in achieving this, altering the color of his snowsuit and changing his big baby eyes into nerd goggles. Alongside the requisite muscle man physique, Iceman looks both older and tougher, and his glow mouth is an interesting design decision as well. It gives him an unwelcoming perpetual grimace. Speaking of perpetual grimace, Airman has much the same, but that's a wide deviation from his design from the games, and boy is he creepier for it. With stark, completely red eyes, a hooded humanoid head, and an absolutely nasty expression. Airman is self-assured in contrast to Iceman's insecurity, with an explicit disrespect for anyone other than Dr. Wily acting as his superior. He values his power over others, and if you've ever gotten to his fight in Mega Man 2, you know that his air shooter is nothing to be scoffed at. Between the Wily bot infighting, we also have Mega Man trying to juggle counseling a trio of troublemaking high school students with saving the world from Dr. Wily's schemes. Though annoying at first, there are interesting dimensions to these kids, and they manage to find ways to be useful to Mega Man in the latter half of the episode. With Iceman and Airman's rivalry as the driving force of the story, and ultimately what does Dr. Wily in at the end, this episode is a unique watch for the series. The struggle against the fearsome, squabbling duo feels legitimate, and the animation is solid. If you want a cold treat before the snow starts falling, this episode is the one to watch. It occurs to me now that that line doesn't really work as well because it's already December by the time I post this. Anyway. Season 1, Episode 13, The Strange Island of Dr. Wily, is an episode wherein Dr. Wily discovers a remote island inhabited by mysterious rock creatures, which Dr. Wily brings to life with his tech. As awakening, the Stonebots cause a weather disturbance that Dr. Light's computer picks up, and the good guys go to investigate the island, and they're caught up in combat with the creatures, who turn on Dr. Wily as well. This episode is a great example of enemy mine, where the good guys and bad guys have to work together to solve a problem. Watching the tension between the two sides as they suspect and betray and work against each other, while also trying to handle the Stonebots, is so much fun to watch. Especially the segment where the robot masters are trying to climb a rumbling volcano attacked by the Stonebots, keeping each other from falling while their patience with one another gets thinner and thinner. The one con of this episode is the underutilization of its episodic robot master, Woodman, which isn't really a surprise. The leaf shield weapon is also a bit less impressive in the show than it is in the game, and there are no particular interesting design changes to make Woodman stand out from his game counterpart. However, the interactions between Mega Man, Roll, and the rest of the Wily bots makes up for it and carries the episode. The episode also benefits from having a particularly exciting climax in the heart of the island's volcano, where the buildup of distrust and grudge finally blows, alongside all of Dr. Wily's plans and the near success of the Stonebots' own agenda. It's a great finale for the first season, and it's always a delight to watch whenever I rewatch the series. Season 2, Episode 2, Terror of the Seven Seas, features Dr. Wily capturing cargo ships for his own use. While out whale watching, the Light family discovers this plot, and Mega Man and Roll have to find a way to infiltrate Dr. Wily's floating fortress and free the ships. Needless to say, that's way easier said than done. This episode features some of my favorite instances of Mega Man and Roll relying on each other to save the day. Roll is at her most vital here, not only being the one to infiltrate Dr. Wily's fortress first, but also dodging the robot masters left and right until Mega Man gets there. Heck, Mega Man isn't even able to find a way in until Roll sends the schematics to Dr. Light. She really gets to shine here. Mega Man does too, and this episode also has some of my favorite fights and chases. Specifically, this chase down the halls of the fortress with Gutsman is one of my favorite chase scenes in the whole show. It's a great intersection between the show's action moments and its strategic moments, as not only is Mega Man on the phone with Dr. Light the whole time trying to figure out how to destroy the fortress, but you also have the siblings thinking on their feet as they try to block Gutsman barreling towards them, and the doors they close are hardly any deterrent. Despite Gutsman having been beaten easily many times up to this point, heck, even in this episode, this is somehow the most threatening he's ever been. And I attribute that to how well the sound design and the animation sell his unstoppable strength, because you don't get that impression of fear from Mega Man or Roll. Heck, the Robot Masters in general are relentless this episode. They always circle back around, of course, but they really bounce back fast in this episode, hardly giving our heroes time to breathe. They pull off some impressive subterfuge early on in the episode, after having already been defeated once, and even if one or two are defeated momentarily, another is already waiting in the wings. This episode really ups the action, being a high-stakes infiltration for most of the episode. The change of pace makes for a fun ride, handling itself like a roller coaster. If you're ready for some high-seas combat, this is the episode for you. Season 2, Episode 10, Brainbot, starts with Dr. Light inventing a new robot master, the titular Brainbot, who's really just a recolored Mega Man with glasses and a lab coat. Mega Man and Roll's mission in this episode is to cross the country to get Brainbot to a research facility where he is to work, and to keep him and his supercomputer Brain out of the hands of Dr. Wily. Of course, it doesn't take long for things to go awry. In matching with the episode's premise, in contrast to the episode I recommended before this one, this episode places higher emphasis on each side planning their next move over its action scenes. The story is a battle of wits, each team using everything at their disposal to accomplish their goals, and think one step ahead of their enemies. When it comes to the forces in their way, the Wily bots aren't the only problem Mega Man and Roll have to face. Brainbot, being inexperienced and overcalculating, tries to be helpful, but the emphasis is on tries. He frequently screws things up, getting on the nerves of whoever has their hands on him at any given moment. Depending on the kind of person you are, he might either be a mark against this episode or one in its favor. On one hand, he is really annoying. On the other, that his faults are acknowledged and are an important part of this episode might save him. It helps that he steadily starts to trust in the siblings' pragmatism and experience over his own calculations. This is another good Roll episode to boot. In fact, if Roll features heavily in any episode, it's probably a good episode. There's a solid chunk late in the episode where she has to escort Brainbot on her own, and she is brilliant. I want to call attention to some of the comedy in this episode with Wily bots because they are such a joy in this episode as well. This episode is the right blend of wits and charm, bundled with special care. If you have a pinch of patience and want to see the show at its smartest, then by my calculations, there's a 94.6% chance you'll like this episode. It may be a little weird to recommend the last episode of a show to get people starting to watch it, but hear me out. While the show was cancelled for low toy sales, among other things, watching this episode made it clear to me that a lot of people behind the show loved making it. This episode has some of the series' best writing, best animation, and best action. The premise is pretty simple and unremarkable. Dr. Wily wants to steal an exceptionally valuable black pearl using toys he has turned evil, and Mega Man's task is to safely transport it to its new home across the country. That's it. Sometimes that's all you need. The silly premise is well delivered and genuinely fun to watch, particularly scenes where you have the toys performing heists, stealing information, and even infiltrating some rich kid's birthday party. The animators are at the top of their game in every action scene, with cleverly chosen moments of anticipation and payoff. My favorite shot might be just this one of a chandelier about to fall onto Mega Man, just for the slow start to its descent, the glittering crystals swaying just slightly before it comes crashing down. The characters are also in their best form in this episode, with smart, strategic decisions and clever forethought on the part of both sides. Bomb Man successfully springs a nasty trap on Mega Man leading it to the climax, and Mega Man's solution for escape is equally well executed. Even Rush is at his best in this episode, being as silent as he gets, which is still pretty chatty, but contributing. The bad guys are at their most threatening, even the toys. Whether they were hoping to get a third season or just wanted to send the show off on a high note, they certainly succeeded in the latter. There aren't particularly special gimmicks to this episode, no twist of character relationships, nor is the scheme of the episode especially different. But if you wanted to get a full grasp of what this show is like to watch at its strongest, and you don't feel the need to go through the first episode for the sake of backstory, this is the episode to start with, if not the episode to end with. unfortunate thing about this list is when I was writing those early drafts, the current license holders, Wildbrain Ltd, had the whole show available to watch legally and for free here on YouTube. I mean, the show's still available on YouTube, but not legally. And it's really weird that the legal uploads are gone, but not the pirated ones. The show isn't available for streaming anywhere, and Jesus, man, I'm not paying that much for a DVD. Still, I'm glad the show's available to watch at all, given that it is pretty damn good. So check it out if you have the time. I'm Jay on Channel 3, and thanks for playing.